Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Los Angeles Chess Club Saturday morning intermediate class. The game that I've selected for you guys is one that I played in the National Open in 1990. It was round 3, and I was black against an expert. His name was Joseph Kennedy. So he opened with e4, popular name. And usually against expert masters, I play my main line repertoire against e4, which is French defense. So I played e6, he played d4, I played d5, and he played bishop e3. Back then, this was a fairly new move, and it was not a move that you face very often. As a matter of fact, that was the first time I ever saw this move. The idea of this move is to hinder black's c5, he's on it twice, and make it difficult for black to make one of the most and crucial moves in French defense, which is c5. The only drawback to this move is that black may take this pawn and try to hold on to it, at least for a while, if not forever. So I took the pawn. Now he has to prove that he can get this pawn back, which is a very important pawn. So I played knight d2. Sometimes when you win a pawn in the opening, especially as black, it's very dangerous to try to hold on to it. I could hold on to this pawn for good by playing f5. But that means all I've made so far were 1, 2, 3, 4 pawn moves. He's got 2 pieces developed, and I made only pawn moves. That's when he would play f3, he gambits the pawn, and this weakness of over here, especially on dark squares, would be very telling for the rest of the game. So that's why I decided not to make this very committal move. Instead, that f6. That is a developing move. Pawn moves are not developing moves in the openings. Piece moves are. And he played g3, of course, with the idea of bishop g2 and piling attack twice on this. And I'm thinking of defending the pawn twice. So b6, bishop g2, bishop b7. So far, so good. So how is he going to get the pawn back? He needs to attack it one more time. c3. What's the idea behind this move?
Queen c2.
Queen c2, and looks like there's no way I can defend the pawn for the 3rd time. Of course, I could play queen d5, but at this moment is not necessary. So I played c5. c5 is a very, very important move for black to play in French defense. So I played queen c2, trying to get the pawn back, and I defended the pawn. Of course, he could kick my queen with c4, but then I go to queen c6, and this pawn is defended 3 times. So on queen d5, he played knight h3. Good move. He's trying to go here, kick my queen away, and win the pawn. On knight h3, I played c takes d4. And what should he do? He could recapture here, but if he takes here, I'll play e5. Not only he cannot play knight f4, but also he will have to move the bishop again back to e3. But he played knight f4 first. This is an example of what we call Sushin Zug move. It's one of the 15 minor tactical themes in chess. Sushin Zug is a German term. The English term for it is in-between move. Of course, white is going to make a decision on this pawn. But before he does this, he makes that in-between move and then make a decision on what to do with this pawn. So on knight here, I move the queen to c6. And the good thing about queen c6 is that he's not able to capture back with a pawn. So what's his only move?
Capture back with bishop.
With the bishop. Very good. So you can tell he's gone wrong in the opening already. He was not able to get this pawn back, and it's black's move now. I'm preparing to fork these 2 pieces. So What should I do?
Fork the 2 pieces.
While I'm making a developing move, I develop a piece. Knight bd7. It develops a piece and it threatens to win a piece. So on knight bd7, I could tell that he's gone wrong in this position and he doesn't know what he's doing, or he's on his own, which is what a higher rated player wants, to put the low rated player on his own out of his memorized lines. So the threat of e5 is coming. If he retreats the bishop back to e3 now, I still play e5. And you know, in French defense, if black gets to play e5, he almost always gets the upper hand. And knight will have to retreat to either e2 or h3. Both of them are uncomfortable squares.
So the knight takes them.
So he decided to take the knight. Bishop takes f6. And of course, I want to keep on holding onto this pawn. So I took back with the knight. So I was expecting him to castle short with the idea of rook e1, and then he would recover his pawn. But he castled long. It's an interesting move. I'm not going to criticize this move, though. There's a time and place for castling long. Normally you castle short because it's safer. Castling long, however, if the d file is open, like in this case, sometimes it's better recommended. It's my move, and what should I do?
You need to get the bishop out so you
I could have castled long also. That would have been an interesting move. But I played bishop d6. The idea behind this move is I'm anticipating rook here, and I may want to take here at some point. So on bishop d6, he played knight back to h3. He didn't want me to mess up his pawn structure. It's my turn now. I can castle either wing. So everything is being equal, you want to castle short. So castling long would have been okay, but castling short is usually safer. So I castled short, and he played knight g5. Okay, so finally he's attacking the pawn for the 4th time, right? And I have 3 defenders, and I cannot defend it one more time. So I'm going to give the pawn back. And when he takes here, he'd be attacking the knight and the bishop. So I realized that bishop here was misplaced. It did drive the knight away. Now it's time to move the bishop back to a safer square. I played bishop e7. He played knight d e4. Okay, his threat is obvious. It is black to play, but if it were white, he would finish the game with knight takes check, followed by queen h7 checkmate. So my only move is knight takes knight.
queen takes.
So
No.
what should he do? He can capture.
Bishop takes.
Bishop takes looks good, but it's a big mistake. I'll play bishop takes knight check, Sushin Zuk in between move. First, removing one of the defenders of the bishop, then I win the bishop here. So bishop takes looks good, but it actually doesn't work. His only reasonable move is knight takes. And with knight takes, that means the mate threat is gone on this square. And all you have to do is play safe moves and outplay my low-rated opponent. But let's see what has happened. It's important when the opening part of the game is over to assess the position and based on that assessment, make your plan for the rest of the game. How do we evaluate this position? You notice that each side has queen, 2 rooks, and 2 minors. However, black's minors are bishop pairs, and white's minors are knight and a bishop. Usually pair of the same thing, especially bishops with open center, that means no pawns in the center, bishop pair is definitely a big advantage. So when I assessed this position at home later on, I felt like white is slightly better. I'm sorry, black is slightly better because of the bishop pair. And having a bishop pair is a permanent advantage. In other words, it's not going to go away anytime soon. So I just moved the queen back to c7 because he was threatening check and winning my queen. Queen c7, and now it's his move. There's a nasty pin over here that he can't get rid of. So he played f3. I was actually happy to see this move because he just, what did he make out of this bishop?
Trap piece.
There's a name for a bishop that is hemmed in by his own pawns on a diagonal.
Crowded.
Big pawn.
Big pawn.
Big pawn. He just made a big pawn out of this because what is this bishop doing here? It's really has a role of a pawn.
Yeah.
I mean, the diagonal is closed now. So now it's just a matter of outplaying my low-rate opponent. So I played bishop d5, centralizing my bishop. Not that I'm threatening to win here because he could play b3 and trap the bishop. But I'm putting my pieces towards his king side. When there are opposite side castlings, the strategy for each player is to pile up against your opponent's king side. So it's his move, and usually when you castle long, you got to make one more move with the king in order to cover the rook pawn. So he played king b1, and what other thing do we do when there are opposite side castling? Pawn avalanches. Push pawns towards your opponent's king side. b5. And of course he should do the same. But since I don't have any weaknesses over here, his pawn avalanches probably would not work. So after b5, I assess this position as clearly better for black. So my advantage increased from a slight advantage 2 moves ago, after bishop here and pawn here and king b1, to clear advantage to black. It's white to play rook he1. So officially he just entered the middle game, developing his last undeveloped piece. The reason I had not developed my rooks yet because I was not sure which file were best for them. It's sometimes a good idea to wait. Now I'll play rook fc8. One threat behind this move is to play b4, and he cannot take back, and I'm going to mess up his pawn structure here. So it's his move, and he played rook c1. I was happy to see this move too. This is a purely defensive move. He moved the rook off the only open file in the game to a closed file or half open file. Rook c1 he played.
Why did you use rook f instead of rook a?
Because I need this rook to be behind this pawn as I'm advancing this pawn later on, or go to b8 behind this pawn, because I need this rook on either a and b file because that's where his king is. In other words, I'm piling everything either on the king side or towards the king side, I mean where his king is. And he should do the same, but there's no targets, there are no weaknesses in my position. You see, with this pawn formation, there is no weakness. With this pawn formation, there is a weakness, this pawn here. So that's why every time you push any pawns around where your king lives, that creates weakness. Now I need to engage this pawn with another pawn. In other words, do this. And I don't want him to be able to capture. So it's black to play a5. So as you see, the battle lines are drawn. Black is pushing on this side, and white should be pushing on this side, but he's so slow and he doesn't have time for that. So he is going into purely defensive mode. Bishop f1. He figured bishop is useless on this diagonal. He might as well bring it to a better diagonal. And Perry, to answer your question, why rook fc8 as opposed to why rook ac8? That explains, you see, rook ab8 now. And my rook is towards his king. I'm hoping to create some accidents with the next few moves. Accident leading to checkmate. So rook ab8, white played bishop d3. So in 2 moves, he deployed the bishop to a fantastic diagonal, bearing down on h7. There's a name for this regrouping.
Battery.
Battery, very good. When you have a queen and a minor piece, either it's a bishop with a minor piece in the front, it's called a battery. Sometimes it's queen and a rook, like this. And this is also called a battery.
What happens if it's switched? It's the same name, right?
If the queen is in the front and bishop is in the back, you could call that battery too, but officially is not by definition is not battery because the minor piece should be in the front.
So what's it?
It doesn't have a name. You can create your own name and have your name in that name in chess history. So bishop d3, even though he's not threatening to win this pawn immediately, a good cautious player, he anticipates his opponent's threat and he prevents it before it actually materializes. So I played h6 now.
Now you have a weakness?
Now I have a little bit of weakness, but it's not so easy for him to take advantage of it. What he should do, g4, g5 at some point here. But in order to do that, he has to have this kind of situation to play g5. And he doesn't have that opportunity because as soon as the pawn goes here, I may take it. So here's the position. I played h6. He played queen e2. What's the point of this move?
Getting the queen off x, right?
No, there's an immediate threat.
A battery?
He created a new battery. So what is he attacking?
The pawn.
The b5. He's trying to win the b5 pawn. One way that you would not overlook in chess is every time your opponent makes a move, ask yourself, what is he threatening? And just deal with his threat. You never go wrong. You never overlook. You never drop piece. So played queen e2. It's my turn. Pushing the pawn right now is a mistake because after pawn takes, my queen would be exposed. So I played queen b7, defending the pawn one more time, and got my queen off the dangerous c file. But of course, my goal is eventually to push these pawns. It's his move, and he played knight d2. The only point of this move could be that he may play bishop e4 and force trade these bishops because he's under attack, and when you're under attack, one of the best ways that you can deal with the attack is to trade pieces. It's black to play, and I made one of two exclam moves of this game, actually one of three. It's black to play, and if you analyze the position very deep, you realize that there are some opportunities here for black. It's a move that took me a long time to find, about 20 minutes.
Is it with bishop?
Nope.
A rook.
I mean, bishop here would have been reasonable.
Yeah.
And you see, I'm anticipating bishop here, which is what he's trying to do.
Or queen?
So that means this file is going to be important.
Pawn.
So rook
Pawn
d8.
f5? Oh, yeah.
This is a very hard move to find. I mean, your rooks are on the b and c file in the vicinity of this king, towards the king, and you're moving the rook away. That's unusual. But the strategic things are still more important, which is e file is the only open file. Open files should be occupied with rooks. So I'm eventually thinking of doubling up my rooks on this file. So even though I have this here, and I could be playing b4 at the right time, now is not the right time yet. So I play rook d8. It's his move. As I anticipated, he played bishop e4. Okay, now I came up with the second exclam move in this game. This is metagame right now. The most important thing to do in the metagame is piece optimization. Improve the quality or the positioning of your pieces. All black pieces are in good squares right now, except one.
The bishop.
Which bishop?
The light bishop.
Bishop is light is
Dark
good.
bishop.
The archbishop is not very active. I mean, I'm having an access to two diagonals, but it's not active enough. This is the area that I'm hoping to create accidents, right?
So
bishop
bishop f5?
Bishop f6.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so as you can tell, black has built a good position, but the final blow is not there yet. So he played knight b3. He's going into purely defensive mode. The threat, of course, is knight takes pawn now. So what should black do? I could defend the pawn, but I felt like knight has no good squares to go to. So he helped me push this pawn. So I played a4. I think he was anticipating that if I play a4, that means I'm going to have a hard time playing b4 because he moves the knight. Later on, he could play a3, and the attack looks like it's stopped, right? But my goal was to advance both of these pawns. So after a4, he played knight d4, centralize the knight, and it's black to play. And after black's next move, I felt like black has his advantage has increased and he has a winning position now. What would be a great move for black here?
Bishop sack?
Trading bishops, you mean?
No, on A2.
Bishop on a2, bishop takes, king takes, and then what?
Oh yeah, and that's not good move if you take.
I can do that, but I only get one pawn for it, so it's not enough.
Yeah, that would be terrible. Bishop takes knight.
Well, my biggest advantage right now, besides pushing on this king side, is the bishop pair. So if I play bishop takes, it's true I drive this pawn over here, which would become an IQP, isolated queen pawn, and then I have 2 to 2. But it's not so easy to break through still. This knight d4 is a weak move, and I was hoping actually in a way to play that.
Pawn E5.
e5,
B5? Pawn E5.
pawn b4. You see, I got to play pawn here, and he is not able to capture it. His pawn is overloaded. It's guarding the knight. So I got to play this very important move, and he cannot take it, which means I'm threatening to play pawn takes pawn possibly next move. So I played b4, and my advantage here is winning. This is a winning position now. You give it to two equal rated master, and black advantage is huge. It's just a matter of finishing his opponent off. As a matter of fact, after 3 more moves, white resigned. So after b4, it's his move. What should he do? This is a very dangerous foul, and I'm about to open it. So he played king a1. Good move, bad move? What do you think? He got off the dangerous foul, and he entered into dangerous diagonal. So I need to weaken the diagonal now. This is a good pawn chain. When you want to attack a pawn chain, you attack the base, according to Nimzowitsch.
Pawn A3.
Okay, very good. So, not yet. First, I played queen b6. The immediate threat is to capture here twice. I want him to defend this pawn somehow. I mean, this knight. So I played queen b6.
What with the pawn to E5? Is it
I can play pawn e5, and usually that's a good move in French defense, but this position is not French defense anymore. The biggest drawback to this move is that I close my bishop diagonals towards his king for good. You never want to do that. This is a very tempting attacking move that we call it an example of a bad one-move threat. So the formation of the pieces is great for now for black. So I played queen b6. He realized that I may capture here twice and win a pawn. So I played the most reasonable move, rook e d1. And how would black open up lines now? My pieces are in the best position that they could possibly be. In other words, I cannot optimize their position any better. So there's a rule in chess. When your pieces are all in good squares and you cannot improve their position anymore, you can improve your position by pawn moves. So obviously I don't want to touch these pawns here. Nothing is happening over there. So I want to weaken this area.
Pawn A3.
A3. Now virtually anything he does would be problematic on either one of these captures. But he was ready for that. He played bishop b1. What is my threat?
He goes to bishop B1.
It's his move, but if we were black to play, what would black do? How would black finish him off? My plan was to play pawn takes pawn.
Yes.
And if he takes with a pawn, queen check,
Mate.
he has to capture
Oh,
I take with a pawn, and I fork the king and the rook.
What's the matter with A taking B check?
Pawn takes.
Queen takes.
And then pawn takes. And
He
rook
trades
takes,
queens,
Rook takes.
and then
push.
he wins over here. I don't win anything. So, but he played a move that I did not expect, and I didn't think it was good. He moved the bishop back to b1. I don't know what he was thinking. He thought I could mate him over here on a2. So it's black to play and win. With my next move, he resigned. Black to play and
Pawn
win.
takes the pawn and see the bishop.
Pawn takes the pawn on c3. He has two ways of recapture, and both are problematic. If he takes with a rook, what do I do? Pawn takes pawn. It's not mate, technically. He can take with the queen, then I'll take with the queen and say mate. And if he plays pawn takes, if he plays rook takes, pawn takes pawn. If he plays pawn takes, queen b2 check. So either way, he's pretty much busted. So he's got, what if he pushes? Good question. It's black to play, and black has a winning position still. What is black's best move?
Just win the knight.
Queen just takes.
Win the knight.
I know.
Bishop takes knight. Push pawn.
C2.
The reason bishop takes b3 doesn't work because he takes back with a pawn. It would be nice, it would take back with the knight because I have a deadly discovered check.
Oh. Discovered check or discovered checkmate? Oh, check.
Well, it's not technically checkmate. He can block knight here, queen mate. So he will take back with a pawn, and I don't have a checkmate. Of course, the position is still winning, but it will take longer. So that's why bishop takes b3 doesn't work. How would black finish him off if he played b3?
Bishop takes knight.
Right, there's a knight hanging. I just removed the guard of that knight. I play bishop takes knight, and that's a whole piece, and it's winning. He can resist a little bit longer with, say, bishop here.
And then
But this is a winning position. Another nice move I have, which I like this probably a little bit better, is pawn c2 now without capturing the knight.
Because it's pinned.
I'm forking these two, but he can survive longer with this. After, say, bishop takes, I win a knight, king b1, and he can survive this for a while. So that was another possibility. But he felt like at the very least he's going to lose a piece, and when you're a piece done and you keep on playing, there's a name for that type of play.
chess. Titanic chess.
Titanic chess.
Titanic.
It's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. You know, when Titanic hit the iceberg, it was just a matter of time before it breaks apart. So people who keep playing in lost position, but my advice is do keep playing in lost positions. You'll be surprised. Many things could happen.
You can even win or force a draw.
At the very least, you unnerve your opponent, and he could become careless, like a master did against me. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed it. Now we will have another teacher to teach the rest of the class.